Marine Christmases. It's there, you know, a little bit of dead Japanese. After the war, you know, daughter went to the Twin Towers and the Mount. And we met with it in New York. We lived on the phone with the Twin Towers, the yellow big one. Nobody goes in there, but there is the rain. That's this one here. The direction of in Watson School. Quarters will come out here in Britain. Report came out about sort of the front of the news on tour. He stuff up my house and then says the one of them came, they were pointing, they were the red. Once that news came around,
Is there anybody here that has some questions that need to be answered? I know there's some students here that probably have to go to class again or something. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Was there something unique about the Navajo language that made the group talk
Well,
about?
at the time, Navajo wasn't a written language, and we're a big reservation. So depending on where you're from, the dialect can be a little bit different. And the gentleman that requested for it, it was Philip Johnston. His father was a missionary, so he grew up on the res. He grew up speaking Navajo very fluently, and he joined the Marines. See, the United States used in World War I and World War II, there was 21 different tribes that they used as messengers, code talkers. They used them as messengers. The difference between all of them is they would just talk in their own language with one another. But the Navajo coded its own language. And I understand who else did that? Comanche. They also coded their own language. But the Navajos, they did theirs, since the language wasn't written or wasn't very well known, they went ahead and used that one. That became more famous because there was more Navajos and there were Comanches also. And also they were faster. Then the code was never broken. And each message was never mistaken or wrong or anything. According to Dan Anke, him and my dad were sending messages for about almost 16 hours straight. And it's not just for directions, but it was for more ammunition, medics, supplies, water, food, and all this kind of stuff. So they're constantly sending messages. But it's the only code that was never broken. Yes?
Would you speak a little? Navajo.
Oh,
Well, I mean, with he.
with him? You didn't hear us
Yeah.
earlier? No, just kidding. Telling him.
What did it sound like?
Let me give you an example, okay? We were in Kentucky. No, yeah, Kentucky. We talked to a group of men. They were all veterans, and they asked about it. And when my dad got up, started to talk, he goes, "Yad eshikis." And Navajo, that means, if you say it right, it means, "Hello, my friends." And after we got through talking, they invited us to eat. And this gentleman comes up, he goes, "Oh, that's a beautiful language. Can you tell me if I said it right?" "Yeah, that's dikis." He goes like that. Navajo, dikis means stupid. So Dad goes, "Yes, you said it. Fine." My wife says it all the time. So like the word shikis, dikis, daskis, shikis, all of those, they're okay. Shikis, my friend. Dikis, stupid. Daikis, washing, washing goes. Dikis, crooked. So depending on where you put your accent and dialect, it changes the meaning of it. So that was one of the main reasons why Johnson felt that it was very good to use the Navajo language. Because of that, the dialect changes a lot between the one. So depending on where you put your accent and all of that, that states what the word is. So it depends on how good you are. My parents raised us to speak English only. We talk Navajo, but very enough to speak to our elders, our grandparents, and some directions and stuff like that. Conversational Navajo is way different. I learned that from my mother-in-law. My husband would tease me about my Navajo and stuff like that. One night I said something wrong, and we were both making fried bread. She was in the dough. I said something, and I said it wrong, and my husband and his brother started laughing. My mother-in-law turned around and threw that dough at him. And she told him, "You weren't any better trying to speak English when you were younger, so cut it out." So, but all of us kids, my parents felt that since they were in a time where they felt that right now English is, you're not going to get nowhere unless you speak English good. And so we didn't learn more Navajo until we got older and couldn't speak. I think just me, my sister and I are the one that can really speak conversational Navajo. The others are still, they don't really know. The two younger ones don't know Navajo very well at all. I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they followed me out there, raised my kids over there, so they followed me out there, so they didn't get to learn it as if they were back in the U.S. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have an understanding that a lot of the words exchanged in the Indian code talking were sort of invented words because there weren't equivalents in Navajo, for instance, for some of the technical munitions or whatever. That's correct, right?
Yes, the first 29 put the code together. They did the alphabet, the alphabet is a certain main thing. And we have a book on it, we didn't bring it. It has like about maybe 6 pages. And that was the very first code put together. But as time went on, and more different type of ammunitions coming in and different things going on, they added it. So by the time the war ended, it was like about 20 pages of codes. And that was it could never be written down or nothing. It was just, they had to memorize it each time. And when they went back to Hawaii for their rest and, refresh everything, they had to go to school there, classes there, and start learning the new codes that were brought in because of different things that were going on that they didn't expect. But there was a Navajo prisoner. He was near the radio station. I don't know why, but he was near the radio station, and he said that he was sitting there and all of a sudden he heard Navajo words. And he kept listening and listening, and I guess one of the Japanese noticed how interested he was. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. A drunken Navajo in the war here. Why is it that he's saying that Chicken Hawk's going to get a whale? Chicken hawks don't go out in the ocean. Whales don't go out in the land. What's going on, you know? But see, those were code. That was a code. And he didn't know the code. He knew the words, the Navajo words, but he didn't know the code. So he was tortured for a long time trying to, they knew, he says, that's what they said. You know, they would say, he didn't know the code. He didn't understand. So he used to tease he wasn't a code talker or anything. As a matter of fact, he was in the Army. And so he would tease when he sees code talker, because you see, my ear is gone right here because of you. You know, he would tease them and stuff like that, you know. But he really respects them and stuff like that, and he goes, because of that, that's what. Yes. Oh, that's you raised your hand. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say a few words. I've always been an admirer of the Navajo code talkers. I was in naval communications, and the Japanese they broke every code we had sometime or another. All of our communications was mostly in 5-letter code groups. But here, these young men they put together a code that was never broken. The Marine commander said they probably would not have taken Iwo Jima if it hadn't been for the help of the Navajo code talkers. And then the young men come back and they came gold.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. But I think in 1948 then they were allowed to vote, but I'm 200% for the Navajo code talkers.
Thank you very much.
When I first heard about the Navajo code talkers, I was told that the Japanese had broken every code that we had, and that this is why they recruited the Navajo code talkers, because the language, like you said, that was not known. Is this accurate?
Yes, it was. Yes, it is. Philip Johnston is the one that he was the one that brought it in, because he knew that the codes were being broken, and that they couldn't get past it and stuff like that. So he's the one that recruited the Navajo, that told the officers and generals that they would be the ones to do it. Since they have used Native Americans also in both wars, you know, the difference is being told the Navajo words, you know, so that's what they do.
So they used it in World War I also?
No, just World War II.
Okay.
World War I had different, I see altogether there was Comanche, some Sioux, Ute, I don't know, we went to Quantico, we dedicated the code talker hall, and they had all the representatives from the tribes. There's a bunch of code talkers, Navajo code talkers that came, but from the other tribes, they had either their descendant or their tribal chairman that came to, you know, to dedicate the hall. But it's in Quantico now. When we went there, we were just barely getting stuff put in and you know, things. So I'm pretty sure that's been about several years ago. So it might be fully stocked now with whatever they could find. But the thing about the Navajo code talkers is that in St. Louis, where they house most of the stuff, the building burned. So right now, when you look for pictures, you see the same pictures of the code talkers. Those were the only ones that the reason why was that those pictures and those information was still in D.C. It wasn't or it was in Virginia or somewhere. Anyway, that burned. So right now, when you get information regarding the code talkers, you still see the same pictures. There's always the same one because that's the only one they had left. But now that it's more out and open, there are some of the guys that brought back some stuff, but they're finally bringing out their things. So there's a few more things that way back there.
Yes. I was wondering if you face a lot of conflict from this family and the life for joining the military.
No.
And maybe how he felt in the, what was that like?
Well, for him, and I'll tell you, all Native Americans go to war to defend their country, their land, you know. Navajos went because they were afraid of their land being taken. And in spite of our lands being taken, we still fought for it. You know, we still fought.
So that doesn't present conflict.
No, not between tribes, because when war is on. Huh?
Internally, is that clear?
No, not my dad. There might be for some, you know, for some there might be, but not my dad. He took care of everybody. It was really hard for him when there's two things in the war that he has never really gotten over. One was where he heard somebody crying for help, and there's bullets going all everywhere, and his partner told him, don't go out there, but he's crying for help, you know. And then he goes, leave him alone, and he's not already dead because he's crying for help. So my dad crawled out of the foxhole, went over there, and when he found him, the soldier had all of his everything sticking out. So he said he pushed everything back in and stayed with him until he died. And then he went back to his foxhole. And the other thing is that bothers him a lot also is on Saipan. The Japanese men told the women and children that they were going to just do really bad things to you. They're going to torture you before they kill you, is what they were told. So when they were conquering it, Saipan, the women went to the cliff, into the ocean. They threw their kids in there and they jumped in after. And the Marines were trying to tell them, no, we're not, we'll take care of you. We're not going to do it. But they jumped over it. Dad goes, that was really hard for him.
It was,
Yeah, the interpreter was saying, we kept telling him, no, everything's okay and stuff like that. And he said, but they still jumped. And he goes, that was really sad to see ladies crying as they threw their kids over that. But they were told that they were going to be tortured really bad and then killed. So they didn't want that. So those are the two ones that Dad has never gotten over. And he still gets some dreams about it. Or I always can tell when, since I moved back home, I moved back to take care of my parents about 10 years ago. And I've started seeing and noticing different things. And one of them is that when he sees something or gets reminded about the war, he'll stay up for about a week or so. He'll be doing something middle of the night. You hear the chainsaw go, shh. What's Dad doing now? Wish he was, you know. But he's had, in a Navajo way, before Navajo goes to war, he has a ceremony then, protection ceremony. And then when they go to war, they come back. And they have a blessing wave done. And they're supposed to have it done 4 times. And once they have that ceremony done, they're not supposed to talk about the war again or anything. We have 420 code talkers. There was, I believe, 19 killed in action. And those that came back, a lot of them well acknowledged that they are U.S. Marines, that they are Navajo code talkers, and that's it. They don't participate in any of the functions or talk about it or anything because they respect the fact that they had the ceremony there. And they don't want the badness and all of that memory to come back to them. So that's why they don't do it. John Woo went around to several code talkers, and him and the people he worked with took their stories from the code talkers. And he's the one that made the movie. So they had the premiere, and we went over there, and we saw the premiere, and Dad was, it's just another war movie, you know. And one of the guys came out, and his name was Paul Blatchford. He was upset, he was mad, he was crying. He goes, why did you bring me here? I told you my story. Why did you change it? Why, you just showed war. It took generations for me to get rid of those scenes, and you put it back in my head again, you know. You should have told me that it was just a war movie, not about code talkers. And it doesn't even show anything that much about it. It's just war, you know. And he was really mad. He was upset. He was crying, and he came out of the theater. The reporter was trying to, talk to him. He just took person away and walked out. He was really upset. But during, the only other time that the code talkers that don't talk about it came out was when they got their Congressional Medal of Honor. They came, but those that passed, their children went up about it. But that's the only other time that they came out. They acknowledged their U.S. Marines, and they acknowledged that they're code talkers, and that's good. Now, there's probably only 5 or 6 that will actually talk like my dad. There'll be maybe about 18 or so that will go on functions like parades and stuff. As long as they don't have to talk, you know, they just go and, you know, parades, sign books, or whatever, you know, kind of stuff. That'll be it. That's all they do. They don't do it more. But it's going down. I would say we have between 30 and 50 code talkers left. But they're, and when my dad talks at the schools, he always tells them, I'm going to be gone now. I'm depending on you to tell my story, to tell the code talker story, because when your great-grandchild comes, you can tell them you're from a very great nation, from a great group of men because of that. You know, he tells them that, so he goes, I'm kind of depending on you guys to tell the story. But that, and then one thing that kind of helped him out a lot was when we were at the Twin Towers. He was telling me about this Japanese guy. He's a young guy, and I would say he's like 14, 15. He came up and he goes, thank you, sir. He goes, because of you, I have my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. Because of you, I am here. Thank you. And he gave my dad a hug. My friend Janet and I were standing there, trying not to cry. Dad's tears coming down. Oh, that's so neat. You know, and then he turned around and they walked. And all that group of Japanese tourists, they're all standing there. They all went like this to my dad. And just went, and then they went back on the bus and left him. But that there helps him with what happened over there. You know, the turmoil that he sees that goes on. And then when we went to Japan several years ago, we went to Japan for the Marine birthday over there. We went there, and there was a bunch of generals and officers. Oh, you saw that picture on there that were there. They were all really good to him and didn't feel any way or anything. But, you know, Dad still says that, I can't believe they're like that. But he lives in the old days, you know. I mean, he came back from war, went to Flagstaff, had $200 in his pocket because that's all they paid him when he got out of the war. And him and another black guy decided to go eat out at a restaurant. They couldn't even go into a restaurant to eat because he said no blacks, no Indians. Yeah, you know. And so I just fought. You fought for your country. I went out there so you can have this restaurant. You're telling me to leave, but that's what happens. But that scene, the guy hugging him kind of takes over, makes him feel better about everything else that happened. And it wasn't all just for nothing. It was for, you know, even the Japanese people were thankful for everything also. Yes?
Were there any women in the code?
No. No, there were no women code talkers. But it didn't get declassified until 23 years after the war ended, because they were told that we're going to use you again if the war starts up. Don't tell nobody. We're going to use you again. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I had a question about the language itself. I had lived in Arizona myself the last 2 years, and I have a couple friends, a married couple, they're both Dene, which are Navajo.
Yeah.
And they're from, one's from near Shiprock, the guy's from Shiprock, and she's more farther from west, like about 100 miles or something.
Okay.
Arizona. And he just told me that like the language that they both speak is different, and I don't know if you call that a dialect.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
his was more new, he said, and I don't know, the kind of sense that the language may be sort of starting to fall away or something. Her language that they speak was more traditional, is what he said. That's all I know. And that made me just think of the question. And I realize it's a different time period, but my question, that's all I know, so I'm just asking, how do they keep the standards?
It depends on the family. If the family is very traditional and they do everything traditional, then the language stays traditional ways. Now, for us, we're guess you would say, because mom and dad decided that they didn't want us to be left behind in the educational system. So it has changed, the language has changed some, but it is still according to the dialect. The traditional one has more deeper and more, you know, whereas the new one is kind of like, I guess as you guys say it, texting like. I guess it's something like that. You know, you text, you shorten your words and you're texting. That's kind of like what they're doing.
So they use the traditional military, their codes and how they get it. Is that how they sure it's the same?
No, they just use their own dialect, but they understand it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's understood. Where are you back there, sir?
I heard that, whenever they made the movies, there's something happening about code talkers, it was an actor that was playing an actor.
No, it wasn't. First of all, a lot of them said, did you have a guard on you? They told my dad, because everybody was a guard on each other. Marines everywhere. We all defended each other. You know, we're guards everywhere. But no, and no, there's not. There wasn't no special security guard on them at all. And but it was the only thing that moved out was that there was Navajo code talkers. It finally brought it out to the general public. Nowadays, we travel all over, and they'll look at my dad. Sometimes he'll be in uniform, or else he'll wear his cap that says Navajo Code Talker, and then they'll go and say, "What's a Navajo Code Talker?" You know, to this day. And then in history books, it's not even history books too. There's a few in it. There's only 2 pages. One page is pictures, and then and another picture, and 2 paragraphs regarding the code talker. It's not in the history books or nothing. Yes?
How old was he when he went in, and how old is he now, if I can ask?
He was 17 when the recruiter came and signed him up. And then he went to Provo. After he got out of school, he went to Provo he wanted to be a baker. So he was in technical school in Provo when he got the letter. So he went from there straight to, by then he had turned 18. So he went straight to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix, they did whatever it is, paperwork, and then they sent him to San Diego.
How old is he now?
89.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes?
You talked about being recruited. How voluntary was that?
I would say about 85 to 90% was all volunteer. The 5–10% were persuaded. You know. But it didn't take much persuasion. Way back there again?
I'm a Navajo from New Mexico, and I was wondering if you can give a translation in Navajo like you put in the word.
You do texting and now.
You want to know if you can do the code that. He doesn't like to do it. And then he only does that one that's on the target. Yeah, he goes, that's military stuff. He told me to keep it a secret. But he usually, I don't know why, he just has never, other than when the code talkers get together on August 14th in Winter Rock, then they'll tease each other and go like this and say the codes, you know, and stuff like that. But other than that, they don't say it anywhere else either. I've never heard any of the other code talkers. The only ones I know they say is on the target. That's the only one I know that they all say. But if they say the code, it's just within among themselves and where they're teasing each other. But other than that, they don't. I asked him several times, and it's supposed to be secret, to tell me, even though it's classified and everything. Any other questions? Oh, way back. When they were in the military, no. When it was all, everybody was equal and stuff like that, they weren't treated any differently. somebody to do some hard work, yeah, you know, they did that. See, I'm from the lazy Navajo now. my son, like I said, we lived in Albuquerque. And when he was younger, we got some really good snow. So my son was standing by the door and he's taking his clothes off. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Grandpa says we're supposed to, if there's a good snow, take it off." So he took off his clothes, ran out in the snow and rolled around it like this and everything. And the neighbor comes over and, "Your son's out in the snow naked." You know, he's got his boxers on, it's okay, he's just doing a blessing for himself, you know, and then he got back out, you know, and he does that every year. He lives in South Dakota, so whenever he goes out there, he goes out there and he does it. Now his neighbors know that he does. He's been there for almost 10 years now, so he does it every year. His neighbors go, "Oh, he's not going to get sick this winter, he's out there in the snow," you know. But we do a lot of things traditionally. We still do. When we leave the reservation, that's the corn pollen for blessings, so for safe return. When we come back onto the reservation, we do the corn pollen. Our dreams, and if we see anything that's evil way or bad way for us, you know, we do the prayer. Some mornings, if we wake up early enough, like I said, I'm the lazy Indian, and Mom and Dad would go up in the morning, early in the morning, and do the blessing to the sun, you know. And I occasionally got up to go in there, especially if I come back home from the casino late. I just stay awake until the sun comes up. Then I go and do the blessing. Then go to bed. Fortunately, I never played that late because I never win. Any other questions? Yes?
Demonstrate over the blessings? Like, could you show us how you guys do it?
No, let's see. There's, okay, the corn pollen, we use that in a lot of ceremonies. Corn pollen is very good for us. Say I go to the sun in the morning, just as it's coming up, and I take the corn pollen out and I put it on my forehead. I take some, go in there and get another one. If the sun is coming up, I do this 4 times, let it go, you know, and then I do the prayer while I'm doing that, you know. Bless me today, bless my family, may I have a good day, don't, you know, keep me safe, and let things go right for me, you know, whatever you want to pray for that day, you do that. You do 4 times. And then there's another one using the corn pollen for prayer, say injuries, if you're hurt somewhere. You'll start from the bottom, under your feet, your knees, your heart, your back here, your hand, your arm, your mouth, and then you end with the top of your head, corn pollen. And then there's different things too. We use eagle feathers for a lot of our ceremonies. We also use cedar for our ceremonies too. So we burn the cedar, and from the smoke, we do the same thing. You know, bless each other, bless one another. And sometimes, most of the times, it's just, you know, from here to this way, and that's it. If it's for something very strong or something that's really neat, then you start from the feet and all the way up that way. So whatever it is goes away. If you're having bad dreams and everything, they'll go and they'll put the feather to knock off the badness that's going on. Like go like this, and knock off the badness. And then we always end with water. We always end with water whenever. Sometimes we'll put the feather in the water and sprinkle you with it. You drink it. You bless yourself. You bless yourself, and you spit a little bit on your hand. And you bless yourself with the water. But every ceremony that we do, each and every ceremony that we do, we use the water at the end.
Did your father teach you the ceremony to use the water, or is that something that you did?
Yeah, they did. He had corn pollen with him when all of Navajo's did. Over here, I think somebody raised their hand.
That was the exact question I was going to ask.
Oh, yeah, they picked up corn pollen in little bags. Some of the pouches have arrowhead in there, and there's another rock that they use. I don't know that white man's great word for it, but they have the sacred rocks in there with the corn pollen. They carried with them always. That was one of the things that the Marines didn't like, but that was one of the things that they were told that it was okay to put the kid. Just like you guys wear a cross, you know, the Catholics wear the cross, or whoever, you know, they wear the cross. It's the same, something like the same thing. Yes, sir.
What's the significance of corn pollen?
The twins. Okay, we started when the Navajos first got together. They have the stories from the old stories and stuff like that. They said they're the ones that brought it back because at the time all we did was we used corn. We grew corn back then. And the Holy One told them that the pollen is to be used for you know, advancement and betterment, and something for good ways. So that's what it is. The old ones, the Holy Ones, are the ones that brought it down to the people. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What rank is your father?
Private first class. Yes.
There were 470 something, I don't know the exact number, code talkers, but only 278.
There was 420 code talkers. 258 actually used the code of battle. Some were still stateside learning, some were on a ship to Hawaii, some were still in Hawaii but had got deployed to an island where the battle was going on. So 258 actually used the code in battle. Well, I thank you all very much for coming.
Let me make just one real quick announcement. First, I'd like to invite you all to the 9th Annual Native American Heritage Month Powwow. It's this weekend at the Hammond Student Center. Dancing starts at noon on both Saturday and Sunday. It's all day, so no admission. We welcome you to come over and see the powwow. Mr. Holliday will be there at a table. And second, if any of you are interested in other things to do with code talking, there is a 1-credit intercession class on code talking that will be offered in January through the anthropology department. And then lastly, if you're interested in a book or a picture, Mr. Holliday will be over here at the table, give him just a couple minutes and everything. And thank you so much for coming, and hope you enjoy it.